Hello, my dear friends, and welcome to Dr.Monkey, where we laugh together and cry together, but hopefully take something away to treat each other a little better. Here's some interesting stories. One about a crazy woman who kicked OP's service dog and got what she deserved. Please subscribe if you haven't, and I hope you'll enjoy it. Story 1. Background. I'm a 35-year-old father of 2 boys. Have PTSD due to time overseas, and have the physical scars to match the mental scars. I have an incredible wife that knows me and knows what situations I should avoid. My children are amazing, but the story revolves around my youngest son and my service dog. Jay, my youngest son, has autism, and we share a special bond because some things that set him off also put my teeth on edge. Spike, my English bulldog, he's my service dog. He's well-trained, lazy, judgmental, and overall uninterested in anything he can't eat. He's also very in tune to Jay and my emotions, and will provide a distraction when we get overwhelmed. Basically, he's like, "Oh, you're stressed? Here, scratch my butt. You'll feel better and I'll get attention." It's a win-win. The story. My family recently moved to Texas. Because we now live very close to an amusement park, we got memberships. Shout out to the park for being amazing when it comes to special needs. This particular park in Arlington, Texas has a special program for autistic people. They have rooms set aside to chill at if you're overstimulated so you can relax, and go back out. Get overstimulated again, and around you go. With Jay, we also don't have to wait in lines. This is a huge thing, and the cause of this story. The park has a pass that lets you skip most of the lines, and they charge an arm and a leg for this. However, with that pass, you still end up in a line with hundreds of people that also have that pass. Jay gets no lines at all. We get a special pass and we go right through the exit. The worker signs the pass and on we go. Jay has a favorite ride, the log ride. There's been days where we would ride the log ride over and over, then eat. We also have the food pass which we pay for. Then we go back to the log ride. On this day, T, my oldest, and Jay wanted to go on the log ride. So we made our way to the exit and left the wife and Spike in the shade because someone has to stay with him. And bulldogs, plus rides, don't mix. As we were going in the exit, a woman started screaming at us. I have absolutely no hearing on my right side, thanks to high pressure wave, so I didn't consider it worth turning my head to listen. Now because we ride this ride almost exclusively, the workers on this ride know us by name and sight. Jay even talks to them, which is rare. We go in, show the pass, sit, and ride. This time though, Tabitha, I'll call her Tabitha because Karen's just overused. The woman that was screaming at us as we were walking through the out made her way to where the speedy pass ends at the ride, where a red shirt will check her pass and let her go on her way. She didn't even want to ride, she just wanted to yell at us for going in through the exit and how we are abusing the system. Now anyone that looks at Jake can see he's in a world all his own, and wouldn't be surprised if he's literally reading the future, or talking to aliens. He's awesome. The red shirt tries to calm her down. T is getting upset because he's a normal 9-year-old, and adults yelling is uncool. Jay's making his excited sounds and waiting for the log to stop so he can get in. We get in, and as we float away, we still hear Tabitha screaming. The ride ends and we exit. We figured we would never see Tabitha again, but obviously it didn't go that way. Tabitha appeared like a dark brother over making the sacrifice. Elder Scrolls reference. Hooting and screaming. Just because Jay is an R word doesn't mean we get extra rights. The screaming causes Jay to let out a super screech. Now everyone knows autism, knows that autistic kids have superpowers. In Jay's case, it's a supersonic, ear-shattering, high-pitched screech that makes your eyes swim and makes it feel like things in your head are moving that shouldn't. This whole time, Spike was laying on the ground in a froggy position as bulldogs do, just looking at Tabitha like she's a rabid dog, but not worth getting up for. As we're being screamed at, I see 2 officers approaching from behind Tabitha. My smile must have broke Tabitha because she hauls off and kicks Spike. This flips my switch because now my family is literally under attack, and I start to react. Before I can make contact, Tabitha is already in the air, being carried half dragged away while being cuffed. Now in front of me is a well-dressed and ticked-off looking officer. He tells us he heard the screech and started heading to it because they thought the ride broke, or something bad happened. I take the time to unflip the switch and examine Spike. He's limping and crying. I feel his hips and I feel that his hip is dislocated. I jokingly ask the officer to walk away and let me get some. He of course has no humor to this, but also can tell I had a career. He asked what happened and we explained what happened from A to Z. He asked if Spike is a service dog and I said yes. He smiles. I'm not in a smile mood, but it catches me off guard. He explains that in Texas, to intentionally injure a service dog is a felony. By this time, park security arrived, issued a trespass order to Tabitha. The officers ask if I want to press charges. I look at Spike and look back. Yes, I say. Tabitha and her tiny mouse-like husband start to freak out as Tabitha is loaded into a golf cart. We hop on a cart too and leave to go to the vet. The vet fixed Spike and all is well. We went back the next day with Spike in the stroller. No one batted an eye and everyone loves a bulldog in a stroller. I let people pet him. He's a hoot and the park is an amazing place. I've been contacted by the investigating officer and have given depositions. I may have to testify, but I look forward to sitting on the bench with Spike on my lap. I'm glad you were able to catch yourself and not make the situation worse. But oh boy, she dislocated the dog's hip with a kick after it was just standing there not engaging her, and I'm sure you even have the video security footage to even back that up. Oh boy, I hope the court teaches her a lesson about this. Story 2. My fiancée grew up in a very abusive household. Her mother was emotionally, physically, and verbally abusive to her. Key example, she snuck laxatives into my fiancé's food as a child whenever she felt that her daughter was getting too pudgy. She also forced my fiancé to stay inside the house for an entire year, as a child with no outside social connection. We are visiting my family for the holidays out of state. I am not close with my father, as he basically walked out on us when I was 10. However, I tried to reconnect and be civil over the years, so I see him once a year or so around the holidays. We agreed to have dinner with him and his fourth wife, who he married well into my adulthood, on Christmas Eve. Big mistake. My father's wife started asking my fiancé about her family, to which my fiancé said that she is not close with them, and other than one dinner we had with them a few months ago, it was by nature of a complex situation, not a desire to see them. She hasn't seen her parents in 4 to 5 years. I have previously told my father and his wife, on more than one occasion, that her parents were abusive, and she does not see them. His wife doubles down saying how it must have been nice to reconnect, and that it's nice that I got to meet them. My father made a couple similar comments as well, calling my fiancée his daughter-to-be, and referring to her as the daughter his fourth wife never had. My fiancée excused herself and went to the bathroom to cry. It's really nice you got to meet her parents. I told them not really. They abused the woman who is going to be my wife, and caused her immense pain. I could have gone a lifetime without meeting them, but I will always be there to support her. This is a very sensitive subject, and we would prefer not to talk about it. My father then chimes in with, "Well, I'm sure we'll meet them at the wedding." No, you don't. Not only because her parents aren't invited to the wedding, but because you've demonstrated a complete lack of respect for our boundaries. I've been oblivious to the pain your wife is causing my wife-to-be, and are actively causing my fiancé emotional pain. Your wife is now uninvited, and you are likely as well. Sounds like you and your fiancé were born to people without the ability to be parents. I am so sorry you both had that trauma as a child. Believe me, I get it. I hope you have a beautiful wedding with loving friends who are able to be discreet about time and place. Create your own family with friends, pets, children. Try to get your wife to have some therapy with someone who specializes in the kind of trauma she experienced as a child. You too. Best wishes for your lives. Story 3. So it's exam season. I'm in the extra care group. This group requires a bit of a boosty during an exam, and for me, I require a laptop and alone space. I have a few psychological issues and my hands are incredibly shaky constantly. So I use a laptop for all my exams rather than handwriting it. I have been since year 9 and I'm currently in year 13. One major issue with me is I can't think straight unless I talk out loud. I can do this in a hushed whisper, but it's why I have to be alone. I'm seated at the back of a large hall with my computer far away from everyone else, so I can freely explain my thoughts to myself while tapping away. Before I get on with the story, I should explain Mr. M. Mr. M is a high-end teacher with 2 students in this school. Neither are important for the story. Mr. M prioritizes those students heavily and puts them in the best classes whenever he could. The classes I was in, they always got top marks and were always winners in some sort of contest. I, being the quiet-minded kid who focused much more on daydreaming about Hulk fantasies, didn't care too much about these brats. I just kept on keeping on. Well, until today. I was in my history exam quietly tapping away about Stalinism and how Alexander II screwed everything up by trying to make it more modern. I was also whispering to myself as I did it, telling myself what to write as I typed, but I felt something, a very sharp tap. I looked up to see Mr. M glaring at me sharply. I didn't understand what I did wrong, so went back to silently tapping, struggling much more as I'm very anxious about my thinking issue. Another hard tap. I turn back to him and he hisses some sort of nonsense about me cheating. I remain silent. I would never cheat in an exam, even if I'm struggling so bad. Why would he accuse me of it now? The silence persisted until he muttered something about having special treatment and his son requiring the laptop, and before I could respond, he had picked it up and began walking away. Now all of this was done in very quick and quiet movement. I couldn't react. I just sat in stunned silence. My work was gone. I'd been in this exam for an hour. I wanted to break down and cry. This was all way too much for me. It was lucky Mrs. D, the one who was in charge of the exams, quickly noticed my lack of computer. Mrs. D was the one who gave me the computer in the first place, so knew something was up. She told me to go with her as she took me outside where I explained everything. The lack of computer, Mr. M accusing me of cheating, being kicked out of the exam hall, everything. She listened contently, then told me to stay there and went off somewhere. From what I got from a teacher who heard the commotion, being near to Mr. M's classroom, Mrs. D had tore him a new one. She berated him for ruining my exam and stealing my property, without any knowledge of my conditions. She eventually returned to me with the laptop and my memory drive. Luckily, he hadn't removed it, and gave me an extra time slip for 15 minutes. Luckily, I was able to get the exam completed, even though it left me a bit shaken up. I haven't seen Mr. M for the rest of the day, and I noticed his class was taken by a sub for this lesson. Maybe some action was taken against him. It sounds like he thought you didn't dare to tell on him because you are disabled. Disgusting excuse of a teacher who should not be there in the first place. Does your school have other disabled students? Try to ask them if he treated them poorly, and stole from them too, because one of the comments in here did suggest he might have done that before, because he thought he could get away with it in the middle of an exam, no less. Update. Oh boy, have I got a story for you. Turns out he's been confiscating work off others and giving it to his kids to hand in. Mr. M has been removed from the college and is not allowed to teach anywhere in my country's region, or the regions nearby. His kids have also been expelled due to constant cheating. He's been replaced on the exam board by a very sweet lady who I had watch over me in my media exam. I need an invigilator near me while working due to some of my issues. Story 4. When I was 7 years old, my parents got a divorce because my dad had an affair with EP. Because my dad picked EP, she felt like she was untouchable when it came to us. She would accuse my mom of turning us against our dad. When we wound up homeless that same year, she and my dad refused to help because we can't afford it. That same year, they renovated the house my dad won in the divorce and bought 2 new cars. But that's another story. By the time I was 9, we barely saw our dad in person, and because of that, I would call every day to share what was going on because I didn't understand why he wasn't around. One day I called him and told him I missed him. That was it, a 9-year-old telling her dad she missed him. EP decided I was in the wrong and decided to call me immediately and scream at me, calling me a brat and telling me it was that kind of behavior that caused my parents to get divorced. She told me I was ungrateful and how dare I make him feel badly for being an over-the-road truck driver. To be clear, I hadn't said anything else. I was in tears when my mom came to see what was going on. To be clear, my mom was livid. She yelled at EP, who said, "She's my stepdaughter. I can say whatever I want. She needs to know her place. It's called parenting." This wasn't even the worst incident of her parenting. I am in no contact now, and they think that I am wrong because they didn't do anything, and that they are my parents, so I should do as they say. Nah, I'll stick with my mom, thanks. I have more stories, but this one has really stuck with me my entire life, and I felt I needed to share it. That is one abusive stepmother. What's sad is your dad doesn't stop the crazy from wrecking your relationship. But he probably suffers from shame knowing him and crazy are to blame for the divorce. There are so many of those delusional step-parents out there. It's scary. And I feel sorry for the kids that can't get away. I'm glad you have your mom. Well guys, that's all for today. If you liked this video, please consider subscribing. And if you missed the last episode on the channel, I'm going to link it right here. The story is about a neighbor kid who kept peering into OP's window with a pair of binoculars. So OP sent the clip to the kid's parents. Check this out if you haven't, and I'll see you next time on Dr. Monkey.